Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to?
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Canvas of a Runner with myself, Tandega Mngomezulu, your host, and then our special guest, Blaque Nubon from That Husband podcast. And then you might be wondering, why is he here? Because these are two different worlds. Ngapha we run that side. It's marital affairs and all, but now you can sit and enjoy and listen and engage on the comment section. So, but hi, Blaque, how are you? How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Tanega. Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you, yeah, just for allowing me to jump on your platform as well. So thanks for thinking of me and yeah, inviting me to this. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Yeah, how are you doing on your end?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I'm looking forward to the conversation as well.
That's great.
Before we jump in, for those who don't know you, who are you and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so Black Newborn, that's me. Love Jesus, love my wife, and I love my child. And those loves together help me do all the other things I do. So I'm a pastor. We're currently in the process of planting a church called Church in the Middle in Midrand. And I'm a podcaster as well for That Husband podcast, where our aim is to try and fix this country by fixing the role of the husband and championing that role and putting it back into the public consciousness because I think it's been devalued so much by society. And then after that, I run a production company with my wife and a very close friend of ours. And that's part of the work we do for that husband, but there's other things that we're involved in as well there. And all of that, I also like showing up looking very good for any of my roles. So I love clothes. I love how I express myself through them. And I'm flirting with being a designer, possibly a stylist. But yeah, right now I'm designing and styling myself.
That's great. That's great. That's interesting. You wear many hats, eh?
Yeah,
But it's,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's also human behavior. You cannot just be interested in one thing. That's
yeah,
very uh,
definitely.
great. And then so when we going through from the beginning, when you speak about being a stronger man, for you,
Yeah,
what does it mean to you today, physically
yeah.
and mentally?
Yeah, I think being a stronger man today really needs to be redefined. So when we speak about men and strength, we normally only associate us to physical strength. But I think there's many other areas in which we need to show up in ways that are strong. So mentally, obviously, that's a big one. And by society standards, there's been a great push for men to look after our mental health. There's always been a great push for men to look after our physical health. So stats and studies show that men don't visit the doctor as much as you guys. And so there's reason and call for us to look after ourselves physically. But I also think coming again, thinking about redefining what strength is for a man, I think we also need to show up in a very strong way in our friendships with other men. And that means that we'll have healthy friendships that prioritize accountability, that prioritize pushing each other so that we can become better in all the other areas of our lives, whether that's financially, that's in our marriages, whether that is, spirituality, whatever the case is. And then I think the last box would be that then just being strong spiritually. I think a man who does not submit to a higher power than himself is a dangerous man. And I think is dangerous in ways that are unhelpful for himself and society. But a man who submits to a higher power is a man who knows where his own strength is ends. He knows his own limitations, and I think it's a man who will then shape all of those strengths, all those good characteristics about him, in a way that will be positive for the society around him. So I think we need to be strong in those areas, and that's what it means for me when I think about men and being strong, showing up strong. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then how has your body changed since becoming a husband and a father? And how did that wake you up to a wellness?
Yeah, so I was always a skinny guy, so like size 26, size 28, that was me. I was like super skinny. And I could eat whatever I want to eat with no like immediate consequence. But obviously, as you get older, your body slows down, and the myth, well, it's probably not a myth. It's a general assumption, but I think it's proven to be more right that when you get married, you let go of yourself, you know. But I didn't. I think I just gained a little bit more weight just because of age, and then I realized that I gained a lot of weight in COVID because obviously we were at home, we were not doing anything. I wasn't inspired to gym at home or whatever the case is, and then we were eating whatever. But I remember one night sleeping, and again, from somebody who's a size 26, 28, to being a size 32. When I went to size 34, and that's pants size, I remember sleeping and feeling my stomach. And that's when I realized, yo, man, I don't want to have a gut. I don't want to have umkaba. So then I
Mm.
just made it my life's mission to not, have a gut and just trying to retain how my body looks, but also besides the aesthetics, just for my own health as I grow older, having kids. And I want to live longer because I have kids, and at least I have one now, and I'm going to have more children. So I want to be there for them. I want to look after them. And I also want to show up well, especially for all the hats that I wear. That's why they say
Yeah.
that health is wealth. And so if I'm not showing up healthy in all the other areas, then I can't do the tasks, and I can't show up for the responsibilities that I have. So I realized that looking after my body is such an important thing. And yeah, so I woke up to that around COVID. And so
Mhm.
so I've changed, yeah, just my eating habits, my exercise routine, etc., which we can get into. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've answered also my next question because I was going to ask, do you remember the moment you realized, Guti, I can't neglect my body anymore? So it's that
Yeah.
moment when you felt mukhabanyana popping up there. So
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
all the areas or the heads that you counted, I also realize that yes, you the mental wellness and spiritual wellness and the connection with the higher power, oh God, Jesus, uh, you can be well and all in that aspect, but your physical body, the body that you live in currently in this
Mm,
realm, you need to take care of that. So hence I was
mm,
interested in also in your profile and the way you work, why and how
yeah.
you maintain your physical appearance. And yes,
Yeah.
most people out there with social media, it's it's part of the aesthetics and how one looks and association with fashion. So but for you,
Yeah.
what matters the most beyond what you've just stated out at the beginning when it comes to
Mm.
physical fitness?
Yeah. I think what matters the most for me again is longevity. It's having a long life, but you have to throw a caveat there, not say just a long life, but a good quality long life. So my mother-in-law is in her 60s, but you would swear she still moves like somebody in her 20s. Because at age 30, she woke up to the reality that her body's shutting down, and she's never skipped a day of gym since then. And just also looking after the way she eats, so we fail to realize, especially as men, that food is our fuel. So whatever fuel you put in your body will determine how your body then shows up. So if you eating junk all the time, or you drinking alcohol all the time, in my case, I have a very sweet tooth, so I succumb to sweets, ice cream, you know anything that is sweet. And I'm like, I can't just keep on putting that kind of fuel in my body and expecting my body then to function at an optimum level. So for me, it is crucially important that we look after our bodies. And what I've done, so I'm not a gym guy, I'll confess. I tried the gym earlier on in my 20s, and the thing I can't stand at the gym is the crowds. Like, there's just too many people. It feels too like I'm doing something intimate, and I just want to be alone. So I started jogging, and I jogged for a couple of years, and I realized that, like, whether I went to a physiotherapist, and I was supposed to train my glutes, my hips, so that I don't put too much strain on my knees. But over the years, it just kept being an issue. So then I just resorted to walking. And I remember um, doing some research, and I discovered what's called as blue zones. And so in blue zones, I don't know if you know about blue zones, but it's places where people, from the time they wake up till they sleep, they don't stop moving. So they don't sit in offices like us, but they wake up in the morning and then keep moving the whole day till they go to bed. And so part of their work and their routine involves movements. So I was like, okay, in that case, I like listening to podcasts. I like thinking. I like just refreshing my mind. So let me just take walks. So walks have been my best friend, and I just look after myself by walking. Yeah. So for me, it's crucial, man, and you have to do that. Find your thing and then maintain it, and yeah, keep going, because the older we're getting, the more our bodies are shutting down.
All right. And then how do you define strength now compared to your younger years?
Yeah. So strength for me now again is presence. So if I can be present for the people I love, if I can be present for the work that God has called me to do, then I'm strong. So strength for me is not just physical. Strength is not just monetary amount of money that you have, but strength is presence. So if I can be present with you in this moment, then I would have shown up in a very strong way. But for me to show up and be present, I need to be healthy. So if I am not looking after my body, I might be lethargic right now, and I might not be able to concentrate. I might not be able to give you 100% of me if I do not look after my body, what I eat, again, just exercise wise, and just, being conscious of how my body functions. And if I feel that there's things that are off, do I go consult? I always make the joke that my wife is a certified legal drug dealer, because she knows everything about medicine. And if somebody's sick in the house or needs supplements, whatever, she's the person to speak to. So I'm like, even exploring that avenue. How do I get supplements? I went to the doctor recently, and I was told that I have low calcium, so I need to get supplements to look after that, because I was just feeling some tension in my muscles. And so for me now, strength is being present and making sure that I've looked after myself, so that in the moment you get 100% of me and not just some of me. Yeah.
Okay. So you do a lot of walking versus strength training or running or anything like that. So it's purely
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah, and when I was younger, I had desires to have, like, proper guns and like muscles. But now I'm like, nah, it's not the aesthetic I want to go for, and I feel fine in my body. I feel like I can control my body. I can hold my body. I'm one with my body. So I'm like, I just don't want to have a mkaba. That's all. I don't want a gun. I'm full mkaba. I'm like, man, if I could just not have that. And umkaba is also associated with a lot of health issues.
Uh,
So some people might think it's just umkaba, but I'm like, it's
yeah.
an indication that there might be other things that are going wrong in your body. And so I'm like, man, I need to make sure that I look after myself in that regard. And plus, I want to be in my kids' lives for as long as God permits, but as long as they would also have me. And so I want to show up, with the kind of energy that they deserve or the moment demands. And so I'm like, man, I don't want to feel lethargic. I don't want to feel like I can't do stuff. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I struggle playing with my daughter. She likes playing. She's energetic. I struggle with playing. I thought I was gonna be the dad who's like, yeah, let's go play. I struggle with that. But
Mm,
like in other moments, I'm like, yeah, I wanna be present when she's speaking. I wanna be present when I take her to school. I wanna be present if we go to the park, and she's playing at the park. I'm there as a security guard. I wanna be present. And so I'm like,
mm.
okay, playing with her, like actual games, getting done. It's my weakness. Can get better at that, but I want to be present around her, and I don't want to feel like I am weighed down just by my own body. That I want to go sit on the couch and watch TV and not be present, in her life. So yeah,
Okay. And then with you not wanting ukuba nomkhaba, back in the day, or I don't know if it's a myth or what, but it has popped up a lot ukuthi in Africa, umkhaba is associated with wealth. What do
yeah,
you say
yeah.
about that? And why are you like you want to run away from umkhaba?
There was a yeah. There's a funny video I think of this Ugandan guy who who said he had umkab, and then he said, well, guys who have six packs basically are wasting their time, busy getting their bodies in shape. He's a billionaire and he's made money, and I'm like, well, sure, you could have made money, but I've lived in Africa all my life. I know that not to be a true statement. I know dudes nomkaba just because it's a beer belly, but they don't actually have any money. You know what I mean? I'm like, and another thing, I'm like, if you fine with how that looks aesthetically, and if you married and your wife is fine with that, yo, be do whatever you want. We're all free humans. For me and my
Mm,
household, yeah, it's not gonna work. That's just not how we want to show up for each other. That's not how I want to show up for any of the things that I do. Uh, again, I never had umkaba from the time I was born. That's why even that night when I was sleeping in COVID, it felt awkward. The fact that I could feel my stomach was such a strange phenomenon. I had never experienced that in my life. So I was like, yo, if I have to live like this every day, how is my life gonna be? The dudes who have umkaba and are fine, at least
mm.
they presenting as fine. I I'm gonna struggle, and that's just my. I'm not trying. I don't have a six pack. Don't have a six pack, but I don't have umkaba. I'm just somewhere in the middle, and that's where I feel I can hold my body, control my body. I can show up, very aware of my space,
Mm. Okay. And then how long did it take you to transform from having that mkaba? The moment you felt it, did you immediately change how you eat, or you just started moving because you knew ukuthi you did a lot more less movement versus how you eat? What were your specific changes, if you can recall?
Yeah. So definitely moved a lot. Definitely tried to change my diet, which that one fluctuates. Again, because I'm like, I generally I generally probably eat one meal a day, right? So some people would call it intermittent fasting, but I'm not intentionally trying to be on an intermittent fasting routine or whatever. But for some reason, if I eat breakfast, I become lazy and my body shuts down and I can't function and I can't think. And so I generally try to again be on this intermittent fasting thing by eating one meal a day. But then the thing that catches me is my sweet tooth. See, the thing that drops me off is me now going to the shop and buying a bag of sweets. And then after buying that bag of sweets, I'm at McDonald's buying a McFlurry Oreo with caramel, and then it's like, yo, I tend to fall off when it comes to my desserts. I love cake, you know. So that's my weakness. My weakness is falling off in that regard when it comes to my food, because as soon as I eat that stuff, I can feel my body change. I can feel my energy change, and so I've fluctuated, so again, tried walking, tried maintaining my diet. That was a big thing. But also just being aware of my routines with all the things I do, so I'm like, sometimes you might think that you're struggling with food or you're struggling with exercising, but the actual issue is not your will. You might have willpower, but then when you look at it, at your environment, like, maybe you
Mm.
sleep in a room where your phone is next to you, and so thinking that you're gonna wake up and go exercise, whatever, you naturally just pick up, and habitually rather pick up your phone, and you go on Instagram, whatever the case is, and then you kill your motivation. um, you
Mm.
know, or just even how food is displayed in your house. So some people, you come into the house and then it's like, oh, the sweets are on the counter or the snacks are on the counter, whatever. So it's like you're not setting yourself up for victory in an environment that screams at you, eat this way. So it sets up a pattern of how you're supposed to eat. So I think environment also plays a very crucial role, and we need to be aware, especially if we've tried exercise, we've tried dieting, and those things are not coming together. I think the next natural question to ask is, how is my environment? And part of the environmental question is asking, how's my community? Because those are the people you share your environment with. So are you with people who have the kind of mindset that would encourage you, to be healthy? Are you with people who would encourage you to, try and do better in terms of your exercise? Or it's people who don't care, and they make fun of you if you try and step out and, look after your body and be well. So I think given the community, that's part of the environment that you're in, and you need to be mindful of all of those things. You might need to have frank conversations with the people around you to say, this is the journey I'm taking, and I need you guys to help me with it. So I've had a variation of those things from
Mhm.
COVID till now, and
Yeah.
and they've fluctuated. So some seasons I'm like on the road killing it. Other seasons I'm like, yo, I'm busy, whatever the thing is. Other seasons I'm struggling with the sweet tooth. Other seasons I'm sweet. Like now I'm like eating proper, haven't had sweets in a minute. Um, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's see how we can maintain this moving forward as well. Yeah.
All right, that's quite interesting when you speak of 1 meal a day and intermittent fasting, and you having to be in it because of time. I guess it's because of time, because you had said you didn't do it intentionally. It was because of how
Yeah.
it started out, and I guess time. Yes. So with time,
Yeah.
then now leading into movement into the digital age. We live in a seated, screen
Yeah.
heavy world. How has the digital lifestyle affected men's bodies, in your view?
Yeah, I think, already there was the culture of men coming back from work, grabbing a beer, sitting in front of the TV, watching news, going to sleep, and just repeating the cycle until the weekend, where we kind of do that, but in a very elongated state, now where we're going to go watch soccer, etc., etc. So I think screens, we had the TV to fight with, but now we have our cell phones, the TV, and within our cell phones there's many million other things that are fighting for our attention. So I think screens have made us more lethargic, more lazy. Screens have made us to not want to be out, and that's why I commend the men who at least in a week go play five-a-side, and have a soccer match with other men, just so that they can be out in the environment. And I think it's important for men to be out in the environment more, because just of our natural wiring, because of our risk factor to be out more. And that's why I would even encourage parents with sons to say, do not put your son in front of a screen for him to play PlayStation or watch Netflix, but he needs to be out playing mud, with mud rather, climbing things, doing testing his own physical strength, seeing how far he can take things, where his limits are, how far he can push boundaries, etc., etc. There's something that happens developmentally in the mind of a man, in the body of a man, as we interact with nature. So I think screens are taking us away from that. But I think another thing is the environment. So we live in the suburbs, high walls. You live in an estate, so it's the soft life. There's nothing physical for you to do that will kind of get your natural wiring energized, your natural wiring sparked up, so that you can show up as a man. So I'm like, man, get involved in doing leather work, get involved in doing woodwork,
Mm.
try and do some form of physical. Wash your car, instead of taking your car to the car wash your car yourself. But that will also just get your body moving. It will get your brain refreshed. And yeah, they in a nutshell, they're ruining us, and they're ruining our body and our mental and physical health. So yeah.
So in a day, how often do you go out and walk or be intentional about moving your body in a day or in a week? How does that look like for you?
Yeah, so in a good week when I'm disciplined, so I'll walk in,
Mm.
let's say, an hour. Uh, yeah, so if I stick to my routine, and
Yeah,
I
yes.
don't allow for other things to interrupt it. But that's why I try and put it at the top of the morning, because then the world is quiet, things are not busy. I've tried noisy. How it looks like for me would be walking in the morning for an hour, 30 minutes, maybe hour, 30 minutes. And then when I'm at the office, we constantly moving. So we're in a
Oh,
creative space. So I'm walking to somebody else's desk to share an idea. We calling people into the common area. We talking, and where we situated in our office is unlike. It's supposed to be a second floor of a building, but then there's like extra stairs that go to the top part, which is like a loft, and the bathrooms are on the ground floor. So then we always have to walk at least 2-3 flights of
mm,
stairs to go to the bathrooms, and so we do that kind of walking as well, and movement rather. So I'm walking down to the bathrooms, and then I'm trying to see people, because it's quite a big campus. So we see people, talk to people, walk to another part of the campus, then go back up the flights of stairs. Um, and 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 a lot of the things that we use are at the bottom. So our kitchen is at the bottom. So we make
oh,
coffee, tea. So we constantly have to walk up and down the stairs. And so in a day, we moving quite a lot, outside of my own dedicated time that I try and set aside to do my own walking. But in the office, there's constant movement. Yeah,
okay. So you're quite an active person. You move a lot. You move a lot. And also how you eat
yeah,
with 1 minute
yeah,
daily really assist in that aspect. So you'll never be obese.
yeah. I hope not. It'll probably take a lot for me to be, but yeah,
Five cakes
So
and chocolate and ice cream.
hey, that's the problem. That's where my problem is, and I need help with that.
Yeah. So many men say, I don't have time. What's your honest response to that?
Yeah, like that's a lie across the board. And everyone has time. Everyone has time. The question that is probably more directed and pointed is, what do you value? Because the thing you value, you'll make time for. So if you don't value your health, you're not gonna make time for. Because I'm like, any man values him making money so that he can look after himself for his family, he'll make time for his work. You know, if he goes to play golf, for example, he knows that he might make connections with other people that might lead to another deal. You value that, so you make time for it. Um, men will go and sit at a bar for 3 4 hours, during the week. Why? Because you value that thing. Whether the thing you value is good or bad, the point is, if you value it, values will always take us will always take us and show us what it is that we spend most of our time doing, or in, because if we value that thing, you will show up for it. So I'm like, time, we all have the same 24 hours. There's other people who do more with those 24 hours. There's people who do nothing with those 24 hours. And then there's the rest of us in between who kind of, fall off, take time here, etc., etc. I'm like, the amount, that when it comes to screens, South Africa is one of the highest ranking countries in the world of how much time we spend on our screens, right? And I think it's probably an average of over 7 hours collectively in a day compared to most countries. And so I'm like, imagine that. Like, it's all these little 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 30 minutes here, possibly an hour, maybe 10 seconds. All of that accumulated would be 7 to 8 hours. So I'm like, what are you doing for 8 hours of the day on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok? You have time. 8 of those were spent scrolling. And I'm like, you could just change and say, okay, if I have 8 hours to spend in a day on scrolling, let me give that 2 hours. And 2 hours I will scroll, and I can divide that 2 hours throughout my day. But then you have 6 more hours to yourself to do stuff that will, be healthy. You could sleep more. Like, it's good for you to sleep, especially for us who live in Johannesburg with the hustle culture here. I'm like, it's good for us to look for space in our day that we can sleep, because I'm like, we can't constantly be on the grind, and now we've made burnout like such a normal thing. Like, I, soon enough, people are gonna brag about their last burnouts. I'm telling you, the last time I burnt out was, and it's like, we can't make that stuff normal, because it's not normal. Our bodies are not supposed to be pushed to the point where we're burning out. So we have time. We have time. It's a lie.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never had that estimate of Kuti. We are one of the top countries that use or are always on the screens. That's
Yeah.
that's scary or alarming. But then on the other side,
Yeah.
wouldn't you say, because a lot of people also spend time on their phones to make business, those who sell, those who go online to conduct any type of business they do, be it content creation, podcasting, or whatever. So that study or that
Yeah.
research, where has it been shared? If you do have time, would you please also share that with me? Or also, do
Yeah.
they go deep in on what social media platforms are being spent on?
Yeah, so generally in Africa, obviously Facebook and WhatsApp are the biggest thing, and that's where we would spend most of our time. But that excludes people who are online for business. This is literally people just on screen scrolling. That's what the study was for, and not people who are actually doing work. But it's just spending aimless time on our screens, and it's not an 8 hour stretch, but it's just throughout the day, taking a bathroom break, and you're on your phone, and you on your desk, instead of doing your work, you checking somebody's status. Instead of eating your lunch, maybe you could eat your lunch while you're walking, so you can take your lunch box at the office and go walk around outside while you're eating. But people are going to sit down and spend that hour of their lunch, who's doing what on Instagram, etc., etc. And I'm like, we should. There's no way to avoid social media. My work is on social media. There's no way to avoid social media. We just need to be healthier in how we use it. We just need to be more wiser. And then again,
Mm.
what is it that we value? Because if I value my health and my wellness and my body, then I will try and take some of those hours. You could, for arguing out loud, you can watch a podcast while you're on the treadmill, right? You can watch a podcast while, or you can listen to a podcast while you're walking. So you can kill two birds with one stone, and podcasts that are healthy, that are good, are also building you up. So you're not just watching like trash TV, but like you just building yourself up mentally. There's information that you're getting. It's changing how you see the world, which is good for your wellness and your health. But at the same time, you can do that walking. So when I walk, I'm listening to a podcast. When I walk, I'm listening to an audiobook. But I'm trying to feed my mind with good information, and I'll change between kinds of podcasts that I listen to. So I might listen to a business podcast. I might listen to a ministry podcast, like about church or whatever. I might listen to, a podcast about culture. So I'm trying to always feed my mind, but at the same time, I'm walking. So I'm like killing two birds with one stone. So there's no way to avoid social media, but like just like do it healthy, and
Yeah.
use it in a healthy way. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. And then, what does a realistic fitness routine look like for a man with work, kids, and responsibilities?
Yeah, I think, find what works for you first. That's, I think, the big thing. Over the years, I've tried several things. Again, one, to see if it works for me, and then secondly, does it adjust to the stage of life that I'm in? So I think that would be the first crucial thing. Find something that works. Do not now take somebody else's routine and think you're gonna copy and paste it and it's gonna work for you. You can borrow from them. You can test out things, but find something that works for you. And then secondly, I think be realistic that if you like me, husband, father, pastor, businessman, podcaster, I need to be realistic about, like, I can't now I would hike for whatever, let's say 2 hours, 3 hours, but I'm like, realistically, I don't have that in a day. So I can spare, an hour. If I'm not busy or the day's not busy, I can spare an hour 30. But then I need to make sure that that's coming in at a time that I'm not needed for all my other responsibilities. And so I'm like, yeah, you need to find what works for you, and then secondly, be realistic about where you are and match that level of realism, and not catch yourself off guard. Because another thing is, if we become too ambitious, which I have, and my wife has called me out on this, I become too ambitious, and then I'm like, yo, I'm gonna walk every day. And then by Saturday, I'm like, what am I doing? Because Saturday is busy and it's packed and I have a lot of things. Now I can't fit it in. And I'm also tired because I was waking up early Monday to Friday. So it's like, no, just like take it easy. If you nowhere right now, start with one day. Let me just commit to one day. Okay, I've done one day in like a month. Every Monday I'm doing this thing. Okay, let me increase it to Tuesday. Let me increase it to Wednesday, as you see yourself get better, and also just your desire. Because if you haven't been exercising, and you haven't found what what works with your routine, it's new and it's shocking to your body and it's shocking to your system. So you just need to give yourself time to adjust. Don't just go in and be too ambitious. But that's another issue that we might have as men, that once we do stuff, we wanna go all the way in, and just not take things incrementally. So I'm like, slow down, take it easy, test out stuff, and then what works, keep. What doesn't work, check out. And that which you've kept, repeat. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you stay consistent when your motivation is low and life is heavy?
Habits, systems, which I don't do perfectly, but habits, systems, because you need something outside of yourself to draw you back into what it is that you want to do. And systems are basically just repeated actions. And once you can have repeatable actions, it just makes it easy then to develop a pattern, develop a habit, and you can get into that groove, into that cycle. So sometimes what we do is we have a goal, and we like, yo, we're gonna I'm gonna meet my fitness goal. But then what kind of systems have you placed between where you are now and to where your goal is? So you need things in between. So when am I gonna wake up? For example, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 5. What are some of the things that hinder me to actually waking up at 5 and then by 5, 10 past 5 be on the road walking? Or it's because I take time to look for my walking shoes and the clothes that I need to change. Okay, so what I should do the night before is put my shoes by the door and put my walking clothes close to my bed. So when I wake up, I get that stuff. So already there, I've created a system. System is to come back home, get my walking shoes, put them by my door, take my walking clothes, put them by my bed, go to bed, put my alarm on. So when I wake up, I can take my clothes, put them on. As I go to the door, put my shoes. Already, that system has made it easy if I don't have motivation. Because if I don't have motivation, the lack of motivation will find any excuse and any reason for you to not do the thing. Oh, you woke up late. Oh, you woke up, but now your shoes are under the bed and you have to wake up your wife because you have to get them under so motivation will find excuses for you to not do the thing, or a lack of motivation rather. But once you have a system, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel because you've programmed yourself, you've set things in place, and so there's also cues in your environment that are telling you this is what we need to be doing. So another easy thing is to not leave your alarm in your room. So put your alarm by the door so that you're forced to wake up and go turn it off. And so now you're forced to get out of your bed. You're forced to walk outside your bedroom to go to wherever you placed it, in the living room, in the kitchen, in the garage, wherever you're gonna leave it. But if you can build a system like that, easy things, then your habits will start forming. Your motivation will fall in line, and I think you won't fall out of balance in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, when you speak of the alarm and leaving it far, far away from you, so that I struggle with that in the morning. I struggle with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
always a good tip. I've had it all before, and I guess a lot of us know about that trick. Ukuthi, put it
Yeah.
away, even your phone, because most of
Yeah.
us we use the alarm phone in. So put the phone away,
Yeah.
Jay. Begin with.
Yeah.
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 So now, when it
So
comes to
no, that's good.
physical health and masculinity, why do you think
Yeah.
men delay addressing their physical
Yeah.
health until something breaks?
Yeah, because I think there might be more philosophical and even more complex reasons, but for me, just existentially, I'm like, men don't want to be told what to do. So, or experientially rather, men don't want to be told what to do. And so, and then we also hate appearing weak. And there's no other time where we are most weak than when our bodies shut down. And that's true of women as well. Like when you're physically weak and you can't do stuff, like you're very vulnerable at that point. And I think we just hate being in that state. We hate being vulnerable. Our egos get bruised. We hate being told what to do. So I have to go to the doctor. He's gonna tell me how to eat, how to. And that's why I said to you earlier on when I began that, like, a man who does not submit to a higher power is a dangerous man because he's not controlled by anything, and he will then be a god to himself and do anything to satisfy his own ego. But that's why I think we need men who are submitted to a higher power, because then you come to the end of yourself and you realize I'm not a know-it-all. I'm not the end and be all of life, and especially not my life. And if there's somebody who went to school for 7 years and more to study the human anatomy, go check yourself. Right, go to that person, let them analyze you so that they can give you better information. And here's the thing: most men will agree that, like, the more data you have about a thing, the better you can plan for that thing, and the better you can look after that thing. And if you run a business, you need data to know whether your business is doing well or not. And based on that data, you can determine what strategy you can employ so that you can get the kind of results that you want and the goals that you set for your business. And so that same logic should apply to our bodies. If you don't have data for your body, how are you going to know to plan and have a strategy to look after your body? And that's why I always joke that men, don't die or don't realize that they're dead rather until our coffin is going down the grave. You know, a man could die in a hospital and he would not be convinced that he's dead. All of us, we see him. He's flatlined, and the doctors declare him dead. In that man's mind, he's not dead. He's only dead when the coffin goes down, and that's when we realize that we're dead. That's how stubborn we are. That's how stubborn we are, and we don't want to be told anything. And I'm like, a lot of men die because of things that they could have prevented years earlier. But because it was like, I don't want to go to a doctor, especially if he's going to check me, poke me. I don't want to do that. So and this lie of believing that because we feel physically strong that we fine. And I'm like, yeah, you could feel physically strong, but like there's things that creep in your body that you don't know, that only show up later and destroy you like this in an instant. And so you need to make that a priority. Yeah.
Okay. And then, how conscious are you about your children watching how you treat your body?
Very, very conscious, very conscious. Yeah. I'm super conscious. Um, yeah. And that's why I think even dressing myself and how I look, is a thing that I share with my daughter, especially. And now that she's older, she's very opinionated in how she dresses, and so she would come ask us, what we think of her outfits. She would comment on how our outfits look, etc., etc. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm conscious of how I carry my body, how I present my body, because kids repeat what is done in front of them more than what they are told to do. So I can tell my kid, do this, do this, do this, but then she'll see me doing something differently, and she'll be confused and think to herself, well, if he's saying A but he's acting like B, maybe B is the important thing because this is how he's showing up and not just what he's saying. So I'm like, it's important for anybody to model how to carry themselves in front of their kids, because kids see, they're observant. And you know what they say, that culture is caught and it's not taught. So you can't teach somebody the culture of your house, and in this case the culture of looking after your body. They catch it, they see it off of you, and then they repeat those habits that you display in front of them. So it's crucial, it's very important. Yeah.
Okay. How old is your daughter?
She's turning 7 in March. She's currently 6. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So yeah, opinion on how people are dressed. I can imagine. I have a 8-year-old turning 9 in April. So
Okay.
when you spoke of how she wants to pick at things and ask,
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah. Now it's that age now.
Do you involve her in movement or physical play, and why does that matter now that her, your daughter, and your wife included? So as a family, the physical activities.
Yeah. And I think my daughter is better than me in this role. But thank God, that she doesn't like screens as much. So she doesn't like sitting and watching tablets and phones and TVs as much. She would sit, for like probably 10 minutes or so, and then she'll start feeling very antsy and she'll want to get up and do stuff. So sometimes if you put on like something on the TV, she might even like be playing physically, moving around in the house with that thing playing in the background, but she's not sitting all the time engulfed, which is such a blessing. But that's why I said she is better at this than me. So my daughter would insist more than me for us to go to the park so that she can be out and play. She would insist more that we go for a walk than me. And so I think she's better than me in that regard, where she's like, hey, and I think part of it, like, she just wants to spend time with us, so she'd rather spend time with us walking than sitting and watching stuff. And so she just wants to be out on the street walking, and because she's also young, so she doesn't know, like, she doesn't have any consciousness of kilometers and time.
Oh,
So I would say to her, we're gonna walk for 3 hours, and she's like, wow, that's big. And we just went for 1 kilometer around the house,
yeah.
so around our street rather. So but for her, as long as we're moving, yeah, she likes it, man. She plays netball at school, so she's very active, very active. Yeah.
Okay. And then, how can couples support each other's physical wellness without pressure or comparison?
Don't judge each other, number one, and do not. You said it rightly there in your question. Do not compare yourselves to other people. So you're not going to motivate your husband by saying, oh, look at the picture of this other guy. You're definitely not going to motivate your husband. Or you motivate your wife. If you say to your
Mm,
wife, why can't you be as sexy as this person? So I'm like, I think if you're gonna win, make it a value. Make it a value in your family. Say this is part of who we are and who we are becoming. If you make it a value in your family, and you say as part of our vows, right? You're married now, you've said your vows, or if you're not married, you're a couple, you're dating. If you're gonna exercise together, make it a value and say this is something that is important. It's crucial to us. This is how we show up for ourselves, show up for the world, and so we're going to put this as a value. If you value making money and living a soft life, value your health as well, and that's how you're going to make it a priority. So and then I think to inspire and motivate each other, like, have competition between the two of you. So don't have competition with other people, have competition between the two of you. So I'm like, me and my wife, we so particular in how we style ourselves. So we dress, and we love our clothes. So but then we would help each other in how we dress. So let's say I put on an outfit, and I'm like, I'm not sure about this. I'd ask her opinion, and vice versa. And so now it's become our thing. So if somebody's putting out clothes, you would comment, etc., etc. So I say that to say that's an easy principle to apply to your fitness as well. That you make it a thing that you share together. So if now we're gonna go on this fitness journey, I can get information, do my own research. I come back and share it with my wife, and I'm like, yo, look at this. We can try this. We can do this, etc., etc. She can be inspired as well to go now find exercise videos that we can do at home, or whatever the cases. And then you just sharing information. Just like how you would share music with your friends, or you would share a nice, cool spot that you want to go hang out in and try out this new restaurant or a holiday destination, because you've made those things values in your life, in your relationship. So make this a value, and create the habit of comparing notes and sharing ideas among each other. That will motivate you. Yeah.
yeah. So we're nearing and closing. So with you as a pastor now, have you,
Yeah.
or do you preach also a physical well-being to other people, to people you gather around with during
Yeah.
church services and all? And how do you know that the value or your message get instilled to people at church?
Yeah. So I mean, I was part of another church for 12 years. So the current church that I'm pastoring, we just planting that now. So we actually haven't had any services yet. But the other
Okay.
church that I was part of, as part of our Bible studies, etc., etc. You know,
Mm,
Paul speaks about taking care of your body and how beneficial it is. And he says that to a pastor. And he says you need to look after your body. There's physical benefits to that, but also the proverbs, would tell us that we need to care for our bodies and look after our bodies. First Corinthians will say that this is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and so you need to look after it, and be careful of what you put into it, right? So every time I would speak to people about that, I don't speak to people about physical health like, yo, if you don't do this thing, like there's something wrong with you and you're gonna go to hell or whatever the case is. But again, it's just like a benefit where it's like if you care so much about your spiritual well-being and you care about your soul, then you need to care about the vessel that houses your soul. You know, if I care so much about how my heart looks like, well, I need to care as well about like the package that my heart is in. And so those two things are not antithetical to each other, but instead they actually collaborate and they work for each other. You know, we I've said this a number of times in sermons in the pulpit that if the body did not matter, then Jesus would not have come in a human body. You know, he would have come as some disbodied, dismembered spirit, but instead he came in a body. And even when he dies and he rises from the grave, he rises with a physical body, and then he promises us to have, you know, physical resurrected bodies in the age to come. And so theologically, the body does matter. And I think anybody who has a spiritual inclination and follows, let's say, Jesus in my case, you would know that being part of being an image bearer, being made in the image of God, is that God has valued our bodies, and so we need to value our body. Theologically, we need to look after these bodies that God has given us, and that's why he also promises that when this body physically dies, he will give me a glorified body. So in heaven, we're not just these cherub beams flying in the sky, or these again disbodied spirits, but instead we have actual bodies. We have mouths, we have ears, we have noses, we have fingers. We're gonna have actual bodies, and so the body matters, and it matters, yeah, more than people actually recognize. And I say that in the pulpit, and I encourage people to care for their bodies because God cares for their body, right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean for that. And then
Yeah.
one message to men who want to be stronger for their families but don't know where to start.
Yeah, I start with this. you know Look after yourself, mentally, spiritually, physically. um, and here's the motivation: you doing so is training ground to look after your family. So it's, if you don't have motivation for the thing that you're doing, or not even motivation, if you don't have a goal, an end goal, then it's going to be hard for you to do the thing. So if you have an end goal, you've won 50% of the battle. The next 50% of the battle is putting systems in place so that you can achieve that goal. So look after yourself as training ground so that you can look after your wife, your children, and your other subsequent neighbors. So if I clothe myself, it's training ground for how I'm supposed to clothe my wife and my child and provide clothes for those who are less fortunate. If I eat, I am using myself as training ground to eat so that I can feed my family and feed those that I find around me. So men need an end goal. We all need end goals, but for men, we there's something in us that can't work without having this big grand goal, this big something that we need to achieve. So I would say, again, this is very general because there's women as well who are very ambitious in that regard, but I would say that do all of these things, so that you can do it unto your family, and that should be the thing that drives you, because sometimes you might think, I'm fine, and I'm like, yeah, you fine, which you actually not, if you think you're fine and you're not doing anything healthy. So you might assume that you're fine, but then how the state of your family will also depend on how well you take care of yourself. Most men die before their female counterparts, and part of that is because we don't look after ourselves. And so I'm like, don't you want to leave a healthy legacy for your family? Don't you want to stay longer enough as well to see your grandkids, and hopefully by God's grace you see your great grandkids, and how much of a blessing you'll be to them? So have an end goal. You're working towards something, and longevity and long life, in and of itself, is not the goal, but a healthy long life, healthy ending. We have to finish well. So I'm like, man, be motivated by wanting to finish well, and hopefully that gets you off the couch so that you can actually start looking after yourself and start moving. But not only that, you can start putting good fuel into your body. So what you eat, what you drink, that it would be something that's healthy to carry you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. And then Now we are closing. Last episode, we had a guest, and I had asked them to leave a question for you. So here's
Sure.
a question they had left for you. And it's a random question. A lesson that you,
Okay.
what's a lesson that you recently learned, or a lesson that changed your perspective on life forever?
Whoa. Okay. A recent lesson that changed my perspective on life forever. Oh, that's hard. Yeah, that's not a recent one. Um, but there's two things that come to mind. Maybe let me share the one. So in all the areas that I mentioned, that I occupy, all the roles that I occupy, um, I compartmentalize those roles. But there's a friend of mine who said to me, part of what is what part of what my essence is that I'm a creative, and so I need to show up as a creative everywhere that I am. You know, I show up as a creative in my pastoring. I show up as a creative in my podcasting, but I didn't show up as a creative in my family, as a husband, as a father. And so when he said that, that revolutionized how I then interact with my family. And that for me was a big thing. That made me to also raise my level of consciousness and use the creativity that God has given me so that I can make my family and home environment a much better place. And that's a work in progress, but that's one thing that woke me up recently. Yeah.
Okay. And then would you please leave a question for our next guest on the next episode? Any random question?
Yeah, the question would be, what shapes your one, what is your worldview, and what shapes that worldview? And then it's the same question. So what is your worldview? What shapes that worldview? And then how can you improve uh, that worldview for the betterment of society?
Interesting. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. That will be all. Thank you, Black, for making time also. Wish you a
appreciate
productive
it.
week, and yeah,
You too.
have a
Yeah,
productive
thank you
year
so
as
much
well.
for this. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I pray just blessings over you and your platform and the work that you're doing. And I hope that it reaches many people, that it fulfills you, that it grows, and that it would also awaken a lot of people in terms of looking after themselves, their health and their wellness. So shout outs to you and the work that you're doing. It's pretty dope.
Thank you. Thank you. Blessings to you as well. Thank you, and good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Sleep
Uh,
well.
sure.
Bye.
Welcome, classic chair. Classics hairstyle. Thank you for being here. We are closing now. You are an hour late. You will probably catch up once I end the live. But thank you for being here. I appreciate that. I'm wishing you a great week as well, and everyone else who have been watching. Thank you, guys, and enjoy the week. Good night.
Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to?